APB, as per broker. I went to speak with the hotel manager. My whiskers were quivering in anger. I had a list of complaints a mile long. I mean, the broker listed this place as a resort, but it was clearly a dump. The manager listened to me with a funny look on his face. He didn't seem too surprised by my grips. "Come with me and I'll explain everything," he said. We went to my room. Then he began to read from the broker. "Let's see, you booked a room with unique decorating features," he read. He waved me his paws around the room. "Have you ever seen a room painted in such a shade of moldy green? Pretty unique, wouldn't you say?" He grinned. "Therefore, it is APB, as per broker." My head began to pound. "But what about the sea view?" I protested. He snickered. I was getting the impression I wasn't the first student to complain. He pulled out a small pair of binoculars from his pocket. "Okay, if you lean out far as you can over the balcony, turn left, stretch your neck, pop out your eyes, and use these binoculars, you'll have your sea view." "Yep, that's APB, as per broker." I chewed my whiskers. "But what about the bathtub with the organic hydro massage?" Once again he snickered. He went into the bathroom and pointed the dented washtub. "Here is your tub," he said. Then he pulled out an egg beater from his other pocket. "And here is your hydro massage." He put the beater into the water and began turning it furiously. "See what I mean?" "Yep, that's APB, as per broker." "For sure," he chuckled. By now, I was seething with rage. But what about having my own fridge and my own television? "Well, that's pretty obvious," the manager chuckled. "It means you should have brought your own." "Yes, sorry. That one is definitely APB, as per broker." Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I was so mad. I had twisted my tail up like a pretzel. "Broker?" I exploded. "I don't give a whisker about the broker. This place is ridiculous. This place is preposterous. This place isn't fit for a flea." Just then someone from next door banged on the wall. I could hear the comments flying. "Who's the man mouse?" shouting at the top of his lungs. Someone cried. "It's that Stilton again. Geronimo Stilton." Another squeaked. "He really lost his marbles now." A third rodent added. "Too much sun, if you ask me," someone else muttered. How embarrassing. I decided a nice breakfast would cheer me up. There was a long line of mice leading into the dining room. "Did you get your number?" A mouse with a terribly burned snout asked me. "Number? What number?" I asked. Snout Burn pointed to the line. "The number for your place in the line. It takes at least 3 hours to get breakfast around here," he said. I sighed. I knew I shouldn't have trusted them. I took my place in line. My stomach was grumbling like my Uncle Cheesebelly when they ran out of cheese rolls at the bakery. I hadn't eaten anything since that awful cheesering the night before. I was starving. Just then I noticed the mouse carrying a tray of bread rolls, tea, and coffee for sale. I couldn't resist. I was so hungry. I bought a small roll and a cup of coffee. The roll tasted like rubber. The coffee tasted like mud. That will be 30 bucks, please, squeaked the mouse. What? I asked. That's highway robbery. The mouse just snickered. Take it or leave it. What could I do? I paid him the money. Rats! I knew I shouldn't have trusted them. How much further to the beach? After breakfast, I headed for the beach. I followed the long path through the sand dunes. I walked and walked and walked. An hour later, I was still walking. Did I mention the path was long? The sun scorched my fur. I was dying of thirst. I'm really dying. Suddenly, I had a horrifying thought. What if I really die of thirst? Headline flashed before my eyes. Stilton sizzles to a crisp. Parched publisher. All dried up. No place to go. Just then, I spotted something up ahead. It was a lemonade stand. How much farther to the beach? I asked the vendor. He smirked. Just another hour, he said. I felt faint. Another hour? I would never make it. I gulped down a glass of lemonade. That will be 50 smackaroos. Cash only, the mouse said, grinning heavily. I pulled out my wallet. What else could I do? I knew I shouldn't have trusted them. A scooter worth its weight in gold. I kept on walking under the burning sun. After a little while, I saw another vendor. This one was renting out scooters. How much for scooters? I asked cautiously. Don't worry, we take credit cards, the mouse replied. I immediately started worrying. This little vacation was costing me a fortune. I was going to have to eat only mac and cheese when I got back home. Yep, no more fancy dinners for me after this trip. I was going broke. Just as I thought, the scooter was worth its weight in gold. At last I reached the beach. I looked like a train wreck. My tongue was hanging out of my mouth from the heat. My snout was sunburned, and my left paw was longer than my right paw. Oh, but that's another story. I was welcomed by a lifeguard as big as a house. I was wearing an itty-bitty yellow bathing suit and an extra tight tank top that read Rattle Hotel Beach. On his bulging right bicep, he had a tattoo of beautiful female mouse. He had a thick gold chain around his neck and his hair gleamed in the sun. What an athlete! What a muscle mouse! What a show-off! He held out his paw. Call me Crusher, he said, squeezing my paw in his. I yelled. When he released me, I checked for broken bones. Crusher didn't seem to notice my pain. He pulled out a pad with a list of names on it. You must be Geronimo Stilton, he said. I'm expecting you. Geronimo, not Geronimo, I corrected him wearily. He stared at the pad again. Are you sure your name is Geronimo? He mumbled. It says Geronimo here. I was so tired I could barely squeak. My name is Geronimo. Geronimo Stilton, I whispered. He scratched his tail. If you say so, he muttered. I could tell he didn't believe me. Just a playful mouse across the beach umbrella. The tag said 313 Geronimo Stilton. I pretended not to see it so I wouldn't have to complain. Instead, I looked around. The beach was mobbed. The rat sitting on my left had his radio crammed up to an ear-splitting volume. On my right sat Bradford. Yes, it was that obnoxious young mouselet who had been sitting next to me on the plane. Rats. I had the worst luck. As he was leaving, Crusher pointed to the water. Then he shouted something, but I couldn't hear it. The music was so loud. The beach was mobbed. What did he say? I shouted. But he was already gone. 2 minutes later, I got hit by a bucket full of ice-cold water. I whipped around. Then I sighed. It was Bradford, of course. His mother smiled. He's such a nice, playful mouse, don't you think? She laughed. I shut my snout. I was following my Aunt Sweetwater's advice. She told me, if you don't have any nice to speak, you don't squeak anything at all. As pale as a piece of mozzarella. It didn't take Bradford long to begin pestering me with his questions. Why is the sun hot? Why is the water wet? Why does the sand burn your paws? Why does the lifeguard have all those muscles? Why don't you have any muscles? He chattered. I pretended to be asleep. It didn't stop him. Why do I have to put on suntan lotion? Why was it raining yesterday and today it's sunny? Why do fish like water? Why do seagulls have white poop? Why are you as pale as a piece of mozzarella? He babbled. Meanwhile, the rat on my left was tapping his paw to the rhythm of music. He was kicking up the clouds of sand. Excuse me, could you stop covering me in sand? I asked him politely. What band? There's no band here, he replied. I shook my head. No, the sand, I repeated, louder this time. He looked confused. What? Land? No, planes don't land here, he yelled. I chewed my whiskers. Not land, I said sand, I shrieked. The rat just shrugged his shoulders. He closed his eyes and started tapping his paw even faster to the beat of the music. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I switched off his radio and shouted at the top of my lungs. Sand, sand! You are covering me in sand! The beach grew silent. I looked around. Everyone was staring at me. It's him again, isn't it? I heard one bather comment. Yes, it's that Geronimo Stilton, another replied. What is his problem? Someone else asked. He should be ashamed of himself, a rodent added. Too much sun, if you ask me, another mumbled. Purple with shame, I tried to hide behind my newspaper. After a while, I realized I was getting sunburned. I decided to buy some suntan lotion. Right at that moment, I saw a peddler passing by. He pulled out a tiny tube of sunblock. You'll need one with a 90 SPF. You are as pale as a piece of mozzarella, he said knowingly. That will be 100 buckaroos, please. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. What a rip-off, I squeaked. Then I paid him. Forget the cheese. I would only be able to afford the macaroni after this vacation. Swimming with sharks. I decided to go for a swim. I noticed there wasn't a single mouse in the water. Perfect! I put on my flippers, my bathing cap, and my earplugs and plunged in. I floated lazily out to the open sea. After a while, I noticed that a small boat was following me. The lifeguard on board waved his paw at me. It was Crusher. I guess he thought I might be afraid of the deep water. I waved back and smiled to let him know I was okay. But Crusher kept following me. Then he started yelling something. I took out my earplugs as the boat came closer. Look out for sharks! I heard Crusher squeak. At the time, I heard something else. A loud splashing sound right behind me. Cheese niblets! Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a gleaming fin. A shark was right on my tail. 10 seconds later, a paw reached out and grabbed me. It was Crusher. He pulled me onto his boat. Then he motored back to the shore. I told you to watch out for the sharks, Geronimo, Crusher scolded me. When I got out of the boat, everyone was staring at me. The comments were flying. It's that Geronimo Stilton again, one rodent huffed. Swimming with sharks just to get himself noticed, another griped. What a cheesehead, someone else snorted. Too much sun, if you ask me, another mouse mumbled. How embarrassing. Quiet as a mouse, I ducked under the umbrella. Then I scampered away. 5:30 a.m. Bungee jumping. It had been a disastrous day. I fell into bed, exhausted that night. Tomorrow I am going to sleep until noon, I decided. I am supposed to be on vacation, right? Or maybe I'd just stay in bed the whole day. I fell into a restless sleep. The disco music roared in my ears. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I was woken with a knock at my door. Who is it? I mumbled. Wake up, Geronimo, time to leave, squeaked a voice on the other side of the door. I opened it. It was another muscle mouse. This was even bigger than Crusher. He looked like he lifted weights in his sleep. Did you forget, Geronimo? He cried. You booked for a bungee jumping lesson this morning. I didn't understand. What? But I didn't, I stammered. Before I could go on, muscle mouse stuck a piece of paper under my snout. It read, 5:30 a.m. bungee jumping Geronimo Stilton, 7:30 a.m. hang gliding Geronimo Stilton, 11:30 a.m. deep sea diving Geronimo Stilton, 12:30 archery Geronimo Stilton, 2 p.m. free fall parachuting Geronimo Stilton. 4 p.m. deep sea fishing with sharks Geronimo Stilton. 7:30 p.m. rock climbing Geronimo Stilton. Muscle Mouse gave me a friendly slap on the back. It sent me flying across the room. I crashed into the dresser. I wondered if I was totally paralyzed or if I would be able to walk with a cane. Muscle Mouse didn't seem to notice my pain. Are you telling me you have forgotten Geronimo? He grinned. I didn't know what to say. Of course, I hadn't signed up for such ridiculously dangerous activities. After all, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of sharks, I'm afraid of wearing the wrong shirt with the wrong tie. First of all, my name is Geronimo Stilton, I corrected him. He smirked, waving the piece of paper under my nose. What a joker, he chuckled. It says here Geronimo, and Geronimo, we have already wasted too much time. Now get dressed and let's get going. I tried to protest, but he kept waving the paper under my snout. But there was no way I was going. No way in a million trillion gazillion years. 2 minutes later, I followed the Muscle Mouse down the hall. I had fallen for the old shake my paw trick. When I stuck out my paw to shake, Muscle Mouse had grabbed me. Cheese niblets! It was going to be one long day. I tried to protest, but he kept waving the paper under my snout. But there was no way I was going. No way in a million trillion gazillion years. 2 minutes later, I followed the Muscle Mouse down the hall. I had fallen for the old shake my paw trick. When I stuck out my paw to shake, Muscle Mouse had grabbed me. Cheese niblets! It was going to be one long day. Whiskers quivering. What can I say? The whole day was an absolutely nightmare. I jumped, or was I pushed? Off a bridge with a rubber band attached to my ankle. Then I jumped, or was I pushed? Off a cliff with a hang glider strapped around me. Next I plunged, or was I pushed? Into the sea with a heavy tank on my back. Yes, I think it would be safe to say it was the worst day of my life. Scuba diving. I went parachuting. I was so scared I fainted on the way down. Then I swam with sharks. I swam away so far I didn't stop until I hit my beach umbrella. Finally, I went rock climbing up Mount Dead Rat. Frankly, I'm amazed I'm still alive and squeaking. I headed back to the hotel with a pounding headache. What a frightening day. My whiskers were quivering with stress. I dragged myself past the reception desk. That's when I noticed Bradford. He was busy scribbling something on the extreme sports activity board. I snuck up behind him. Red in rat's teeth. He was writing my name down after every activity. Enough was enough, I decided. It was time to give Bradford a piece of mind. But before I could speak the word, his mother arrived. She gently took the pen from her son's paw. Then she stroked his ears. My little darling is such a silly jokes, she murmured, leading him away. Bradford stuck his tongue out at me. Silly joker! I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I thought about some silly jokes I could play on Bradford. Like maybe I could put itching powder on his beach towel, or I could stick chewing gum on his pillow, or even better, I could lock him in his suitcase and ship him off to Tomcat Island. I snickered just thinking about it. Yes, a few days with some tough cats would be just perfect for the little darling. Sea lion sweet smoothie. It was dinner time. I got in the long line. Just then, a polished looking female mouse strolled up to me. She offered me a glass of some strange looking liquid. Hello, I'm Pucky, your health and relaxation director, she announced. You look like you could really use our service. Pucky chattered on about mud bath, steam saunas, and meditation classes. I was only half listening. Instead, I was staring at the drink in my paw. It had the most disgusting smell. What is this? I asked, feeling ill. A sea lion sweet smoothie, she answered. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals. I tried not to gag. As soon as Pucky left, I started to empty the drink into a flower pot. Suddenly, she appeared at my side. You need to drink that, she squeaked. It's good for you. I blinked. Thank you. It's just that. I said drink it up now, she hissed. I would have enough. I put my paw on my hips. I'm not going to drink it. It stinks. I shrieked at the top of my lungs. The room felt silent. Everyone turned around. Who's yelling his head off? I heard a mouse ask. Must be that Geronimo Stilton again, another answered. Too much sun, if you ask me, mumbled another rodent. There must be some mistake. That night I fell into a bed. Tomorrow I will definitely sleep in, I told myself. But at 6 o'clock the next morning, someone was knocking at my door. Who is it now? I asked, exasperated. It's the hotel manager, Geronimo, a voice squeaked. Have you forgotten you are leaving today? You are very late. You are going to miss your plane. I'll open the door in a daze. What do you mean I am leaving? I paid for a whole week, I muttered. The hotel manager just shook his head. He showed me a piece of paper from the Trust Me You'll Like It travel agency. It read, I was speechless. Geronimo Stilton booking for 2 nights. The hotel manager put his paw on my shoulder. I know you want to stay longer, Geronimo. The Rattle is just a wonderful hotel, he murmured. But you must go home now. Better shake a paw. Remember, it's 20 miles to airport. And if you don't leave now, the next plane available doesn't leave for another month. That did it. There was no way I was spending another month on San Sabiforo Island. I grabbed my suitcase, then I jumped on a strange bicycle and took off like a mad mouse. It was a very, very, very long ride. Still, I managed to catch my plane just before it took off. I collapsed into my seat and fell into a deep, deep sleep. The next thing I knew, a flight attendant was shouting in my ear. Wake up! We've reached our destination, Mr. Geronimo. A sweet mouse island. I had never been so glad to be home. I smiled at the flight attendant. The name's Geronimo. Geronimo Stilton, I said with a yawn. Outside the airport, I hailed a taxi. Take me to the Trust Me Like It travel agency, please, I told the driver. The taxi stopped in front of the agency. I leaped out, but I didn't get far. A card was stuck into the shop window. That did it. There was no way I was spending another month on San Sabiforo Island. I grabbed my suitcase, Then I jumped on a strange bicycle and took off like a mad mouse. It was a very, very, very long ride. Still, I managed to catch my plane just before it took off. I collapsed into my seat and fell into a deep, deep sleep. The next thing I knew, a flight attendant was shouting in my ear, "Wake up! We've reached our destination, Mr. Geronimo." A sweet mouse island. I had never been so glad to be home. I smiled at the flight attendant. "The name's Geronimo. Geronimo Stilton," I said with a yawn. Outside the airport, I hailed a taxi. "Take me to the Trust Me Like It travel agency, please," I told the driver. The taxi stopped in front of the agency. I leaped out, but I didn't get far. A card was stuck into the shop window. "Closed for vacation. Smoothie Slick Mouse. P.S. In case of an emergency, please contact my partner, Mr. Trapsilton." Just then it hit me. Trap was Smoothie's partner. That's why he wanted me to book a trip with Smoothie. He was making money off me. Oh, what a cheese brain I'd been. I ran to my cousin's thrift shop. Cheap junk for less. There was a card in this window too. "Closed, super closed. I'm away, got it? I'm at high-class rodent luxury resort, not in rat's nest like the one that my cheesebrain cousin Geronimo went to." Laughter is contagious. I trudged to my office. I had to tell someone about my disastrous vacation. I poured out the whole story to my sister Tia. "Did you really swim with sharks? Did you really go bungee jumping? Did you really bike 20 miles to the hotel?" She snickered. Then she burst out laughing. I was a bit hurt by her reaction. I had been looking for a shoulder to cry on, but Tia's shoulder was shaking with laughter. Tears streamed down her fur. "I haven't laughed this hard in years," she shrieked. "Tell me again about the flashy bathing suit you bought. And were you really pestered by a mouselet named Bradford?" Now, as everyone knows, laughter is contagious. Before I knew it, I was chuckling too. I mean, when I really thought about it, my adventures were pretty funny. The rest of my staff came in to see what all the noise was about. Soon my secretary Mousela MacMouser, my editor-in-chief Geronimo Stilton, my art director Maranguita Ginger Mouse, and my designers Blasco Tabasco, Larry Keys, and Matt Wolf were Howling Mouse and Express Delivery Mouse join in. Our laughter could be heard outside on the street. It infected many. My sales manager's shifty paws entered the room. Curious passerby, everyone wanted to hear the details of my incredibly awful, unbelievable, rotten, stinking nightmare vacation. Right then, my sales manager shifty paws into the room. "Do you know, he's a rodent with a nose for business." One look at the hysterical crowd and I could see Shift's light up. He immediately pulled me aside. "Stilton, start writing a book about your adventure right away," he ordered. "We are going to sell thousands, no millions, no billions of copies. Cheesecake. We'll be laughing all the way to the bank. I tell you," I scratched my whiskers. "Writing a book is a lot of work." I wanted to think about it first, but as usual, Shift wouldn't take no for an answer. He began spouting dates and schedules. "Let's see, we'll bring it out for Christmas season. That means I'll need your manuscript by next week, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe today. He jumped up, clapping his paws. Well, what are you waiting for, Stilton? Get moving, 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 he squeaked. The others all agreed. I tried to argue, but Geoff locked me in my office. I was stuck typing away at my computer all day and all night. Are you curious about how it all ended? I finished the book in a jiffy. 2 months later, it was turned into a movie script. Then the movie was released. It broke all the box office records. Yes, I'm happy to squeak. It was a famous success. And guys, please tell us which book would you like next? Would you like the Special Adventures, Journey to Time, Cave Mice, Carpella von Cacklefur's edition, or Thea Stilton's special edition, or the Kingdom of Fantasy? Please tell us in the comments.